Hi, my name is Ryan Moser, and this is my presentation on Bears R Us, corporate restructuring for the company. This story starts off with Paul and Pete, who are lifelong friends, and they became business partners. They went to college together and studied wildlife biology, and they also worked in the U.S. Forest Service together. And they grew a love of grizzly bears, and they wanted to see the protection and preservation of grizzly bears. And they formed an informal company called Bears R Us. With no written documentation, they split benefits and continued to operate. Both had equal say, and they did fantastic in the first year, grossing over millions of dollars that went into preservation. But now that they've grown to this state, it's time for a restructure for the preservation of the future of Bears R Us. So the preservation of bears may continue. The solution of Bears R Us, Inc., which you can get from that, is a C corporation. A C corporation provides the best protection from debt obligations and future torts. With the preservation, there's been talk of a preserve. A corporation will protect against that type of stuff from other third-party entities. It allows for future expansion to continue to grow. And Pete, Paul, and future members. There's going to be other people who want to be a part of this, who want to become into this, who are going to be investing, who are going to have ideas to see to the future. You got to think bigger than just the small, out of the garage business that Bears R Us started as. So why a C corporation? Why not other options? Why not just a general partnership? Well, the problem is liability with a partnership. Partnership liability can be joint and severely liable. The partnership is liable to third persons who are injured from torts committed by a partner while he or she is acting within ordinary courses of partnership or business. And then you have joint and severe liability, which expands to the other partners. Again, partners being personally liable, and that being joint means that it can spread to the other partners and even recover the entire amount in judgment from other partners or other entities. An LLP is better and it comes to liability, but it still is restricted to certain types of professions such as accounting and lawyers, and it's really not quite an option that's going to be one that will be viable for Bears R Us. It requires liability insurance, which a C corporation should probably have liability insurance with it as well. And all partners have a binding agreement or the ability to create their own contract. What they say, where the C corporation, it's not structured that way. So why not an S corporation? It offers the same protection as a C corporation. However, it's still kind of thinking small. We already have multiple members who are wanting to become part of this thing, and S corporation is really only limited to about 75 members. It can never really expand any more than that. We want to go bigger than just the United States. We want to go into Russia and other countries to preserve grizzly bears all over the place, not just limited to the United States. And we want to partner with people who are not just in the United States, where an S corporation limits everything to U.S. citizens and residents. So there's some more limitations to an S corporation, why it's really not the best viable option. A C corporation, it does have some disadvantages. Double taxation and more costly and complicated structure than some of the other options like a LLP or an LLC or just a general partnership or sole proprietorship. It's more complicated to operate and there's different requirements that are there. However, there are advantages. Liability only to the extent of capital contributions from Pete or Paul or whoever else decides to buy into the company. It allows for future partnerships from other countries to buy into. We can expand that way. Perpetual existence. If Peter or Paul dies, the thing can continue on. It's not limited to time that can keep going on for generations and generations. The other advantage is it becomes a centralized management. Not everyone who is a partner or a shareholder or a member necessarily has direct say over daily operations. Officers and the board of directors really determine that. So Peter and Paul can be in charge of this whole thing still, and maybe have some other people on the board, advisors who create different committees to help control different parts of the company. But they can still really do the guiding and the steering of where everything's going from day-to-day operations. To form this, articles of incorporation will need to be filed. The articles of incorporation have to be filed with the Secretary of State. The articles can be amended later on if needed, but the articles of incorporation have to have the name of the corporation, so Bears or Us, the number of shares that are authorized to be issued, so we'll have to come up with that probably in the organizational meeting. We'll address that. And the address of the corporation's initial registered officers and the name of the initial registered agent and the name and address of each incorporator. Those are the requirements for the articles of incorporation. The other thing that should be established are the corporate bylaws, the rules of the company. It's not required for filing with a federal agency, but it does contain all the different information of officers, shareholders, when annual meetings are going to be held, when special meetings will be held, how all that's done, the election of different officers, the board of directors, and all those other different things are all written and spelled out in the bylaws. And it should be in there, and we should have it for Bears or Us to run smoothly and efficiently. That's part of the more complicated aspect of a corporation, but it is necessary. The organizational meeting is a meeting set up right after the Articles of Incorporation, kind of the first thing that happens, and it adopts the bylaws, you elect your corporate officers, and you adopt your corporate policy at that point in time in that organizational meeting. And that really starts the formation and the foundation of Bears R Us Inc. in this case. Taxes are another thing to think about when dealing with it. Now you're being a S Corp, it does have different tax implications than a C Corp. Being a C Corp has different tax implications than it would have when they were their informal business, just Bears or Us, sort of forming as a partnership, sole proprietorship type of thing. They are now subject to corporate tax and corporate tax deductions. So a different sort of a disadvantage to it because of double taxation, and some of those different corporate tax things, a little more complicated. You have to have a separate tax filing for it, since a corporation is its own entity. It's not one and the same anymore, as if where Peter and Paul before would have filed any corporate profits or anything through their personal income taxes. Now the corporation has to file its own taxes. But there are tax benefits to it. Benefits becoming a corporate, because of corporate tax returns. You also get to deduct medical insurance and benefits such as retirement plans and tax deferred trusts. Those are different benefits of running it through a corporation. Both Peter and Paul can write those type of things off and have options for that kind of stuff. And they can also offer that to their employees. The corporation is the one that's liable for the taxation. The liability is no longer dependent upon Paul or Peter. Their liability extends only to their capital contributions and their functionality as officers, I guess. But shareholders are now entitled to profits as well. That's a benefit of taxation, tax benefits as well. Kind of an overview or an overall picture of this is this chart that we have here. You can see from this, the C Corporation really does have a lot of benefits over an S Corp, an LLC, a general partnership, or a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship really, the only benefit that it would have for the vision would be being able to be a U.S. Citizen. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen for that, so you could expand that way. But the C Corp offers the limited liability. It creates you have to register at a state, so it creates a state level registration that usually protects the company name. So Bears R Us name can be protected. It's lasts forever. It never has an end. It's perpetual until it's decided by the board of directors or the officers, however, through the voting of shareholders to be dismissed or ended. Owners in a C corporation do not have to be a U.S. citizen or a resident, where in that S corp standing they do. You can have a ton of different business owners established with this. So when we expand into different parts of the world for the preservation of grizzly bears, they don't necessarily have to be U.S., and we can have more than 75 people in this. It can be much bigger than that, where an S corp is limited to that. Though LLC and partnership do give that, you run different control issues. You don't have the centralized leadership in the LLC. You could set it up that way, but the C Corp is generally a little bit better with that. What other additional tax benefits? The deduction part of it is huge for the C Corp over general partnerships or sole proprietor. You get to run the taxes through there, which can either be a benefit or a pro or a con, I guess you could say, depending on how you want to see it. Owners can also reap in business profits, but they not really through their personal tax returns, where you could on the S. So you're no longer filing those personal returns. And owners can split profit and losses with businesses from for a lower overall tax rate. This is beneficial when we're trying to donate into other companies and other things like that. It will help with different deductions, giving money to other companies for preservation issues. The future of Bears R Us. Overall, this restructure will allow for better provision for employees. We'll be able to take care of our employees better. Preservation of bears and all that stuff is great, but we got to make sure our people who are fighting on the front lines and trying to make the forest and habitat for bears better, we got to make sure that they're taken care of as well. We'll be able to offer better medical and dental plans, retirement options for those employees because of different tax deductions we'll be able to take care of. We'll be able to focus on our goal of grizzly bear preservation through expansion. We'll be able to go into other nations. We'll be able to partner with people from other nations. They'll be able to get their point of view and their focus on a much more than just an advisory committee, but actually have them as part of the company and part owners as we continue. And it's a sound structure that's going to last for generations to come. The C Corp allows for that. So thank you. If you have any questions, let me know.